Have you ever stopped to think about what really powers the technology around you? Not the flashy logos or the billion-dollar companies, but the invisible code running behind the scenes. From the phone in your pocket to the servers that run the internet to the smart TV in your living room, chances are it all runs on something called open source software. But open source wasn't always mainstream. It was born as an act of rebellion, a fight for freedom, collaboration, and the belief that technology should belong to everyone, not just corporations. Today, I'll tell you the untold history of open source software, from the first sparks of the free software movement to Linux, to Firefox, and beyond. This is the story of how volunteers around the world built the backbone of modern technology. In the 1960s and early 70s, computers were massive, expensive machines. Software wasn't sold separately. If you bought a mainframe, the source code came with it because the expectation was that programmers would study it, change it, and adapt it. But as computer industry grew, things began to change. Companies realized they could sell not just the hardware, but the software itself. And to protect their profits, they began to close their source code. This shift frustrated a young programmer at MIT named Richard Stallman. In the early 1980s, Stallman saw Pwn's open systems turning into black boxes, programs that couldn't be modified, studied, or shared, breaking the spirit of collaboration that had defined early computing. So, in 1983, Stallman announced the GNU project. The goal? To create a complete operating system that was entirely free. Not free as in price, but free as in freedom. Software that anyone could study, modify, and redistribute. 2 years later, he founded the Free Software Foundation, creating the famous GNU General Public License, the GPL. It was revolutionary, a legal tool that guaranteed software would remain free and open for everyone, forever. The movement had begun. By the late 80s, the GNU project had developed compilers, libraries, and tools, but one key piece was missing: a working kernel. That's when, in 1991, a Finnish student named Linus Torvalds posted a humble message online. He said he was building a hobby project, a small operating system kernel that wasn't going to be big or professional. That project became Linux, and when developers combined the Linux kernel with the GNU tools, suddenly a fully working, free operating system was born. At first, the tech industry laughed. A system built by random people over the internet, impossible. But the volunteers kept coming. They fixed bugs, wrote drivers, and shared their work freely. Soon, Linux was running on servers. It was fast, stable, and reliable, exactly what the growing internet needed. By the mid-90s, Linux wasn't just a hobby anymore. It was quietly becoming the backbone of the online world. By 1998, the world was beginning to take notice. That year, Netscape, the company behind the first popular web browser, made a bold move. They released their browser source code to the public. It was a turning point. The project became Mozilla, and years later, it gave birth to Firefox. But there was a problem. The term free software made businesses nervous. Free sounded like no money. So, a group of advocates introduced a new term, open source. It was the same idea, but more appealing to the corporate world. Suddenly, companies like IBM, Oracle, and even Sun Microsystems started investing in open source projects. Linux wasn't just an underground movement anymore. It was becoming a serious competitor to proprietary software. Of course, not everyone was happy. In the early 2000s, Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer famously called Linux a cancer. To Microsoft, open source was a direct threat to Windows and its empire. But the truth was undeniable. Linux was winning. Apache became the most popular web server on Earth, powering more than half of all websites. MySQL, a free database, fueled the rise of dynamic websites, from WordPress to Facebook. And Linux servers became the standard for hosting, cloud computing, and enterprise data centers. What started as a hobby project and an idealistic movement was now running the world. Then came the smartphone revolution. In 2007, Apple released the iPhone, changing everything. But behind the scenes, another revolution was brewing. Google had purchased a small company called Android. It was built on the Linux kernel, and when Android phones hit the market, they exploded in popularity. Today, Android is the most widely used operating system in history, running on billions of devices. And yes, it is powered by Linux. Meanwhile, Firefox proved that an open-source browser could compete with giants. Later, Google's Chrome, also based on open-source projects, took the crown. Even Microsoft eventually embraced open source. In 2018, the same company that once called Linux a cancer acquired GitHub, the world's largest platform for open-source development. And today, Microsoft itself is one of the biggest contributors to open-source projects. The tide had turned. Open source isn't just a way to make software, it's a philosophy. It's the belief that collaboration beats competition, that transparency beats secrecy, and that technology should be for everyone. From Wikipedia to WordPress, from TensorFlow to Kubernetes, the open source model has shaped the tools we use every day. Even artificial intelligence research today depends on open collaboration and freely shared code. What started with Stallman's Phi, or freedom, and Torvalds' hobby project has grown into the foundation of our digital world. The history of open source is the history of the people who believe that code should be shared, not locked away, people who work together across borders and time zones to build something bigger than themselves. Today, when you browse the web, use your phone, or even watch this video, you are standing on the shoulders of countless open source developers. So the next time you hear the words open source, remember, it's not just about free software, it's about freedom, collaboration, and the incredible power of communities to change the world. This is the untold history of open source software.